Okay, g'day, everybody. I'd like to welcome you all to the Forbidden History Chronicles. You're here with NinjaCat 111 and Desert-Owl from the Forbidden History series YouTube channel, and currently broadcasting from Forbidden History Live. Links are in the description. If you're not subscribed yet, please go there and subscribe and check the bell. I was going to say g'day to Yo Shelley. Thank you, Yo Janine, for being here. Love you, and g'day Forbidden History Live. Sorry, that's funny. Yeah, it's been a long day. Anyway, we'll get on with it. The signs of the times. In essence, Desert discusses the history of the world and how the unseen hand has been running it from the very beginning of time, who they are and how they have founded all of the first great civilizations that are found all around the world, about who the giants really were, and the ancient Aryan caste and slave systems, the priesthoods, the anti-gravity V-manners, the earth-based misnomered UFOs which are man-made, the control of all forms of communications, commerce, religion, mass media, pseudo-politics, etc. It is the grand deception that is used to control all of mankind, and all instituted through the three main religions of the world in particular, used as their grand cover. Their cyber code has been revealed to him because he has become adept within the study of the ancient alphabets, communications, symbolism, religion, custom, law, cosmology and mythology, not to mention the fallacy of today's political science and pseudoscience in particular. He can also define the true nature of their warfare, their shell game of bringing one civilization up for their temporary use and then taking it down for the next 500-year generational cycle, as symbolized by the classical phoenix. Desert discusses the ultimate in mind control and ancient art and the financial control, the secret societies and their blood occult rituals, and how they wage all wars throughout all time, through the nations that they have created, which are all imaginations, plantations, and mere corporations. They have taken blood oaths to surrender their self-will and mind to their blind goddess who has demanded our blood from the very beginning of time. They communicate to their minions through the movies, TV, and print media, while he can see, read, and interpret most all of it. It all says that they are using us for our ingenuity, for our collective constructive labour, for experimentation, and in the end they intend to kill us all. They have given us full notice of what they are doing and what they fully intend to do, while all of the general population, the sheeple, they merely go there to be entertained. The New World Order is the Old World Order from the beginning of time. There is a major cosmic natural disaster that is about to happen on Earth, and they know it, but they are cleverly leaving us in the dark, hence the reason that they have built hundreds of underground bases all around the world, while they are leaving all of the people to remain unprepared, uninformed, and above ground, so that when it comes, the mere 5% who will survive above ground will die from the weaknesses and disease that has been generated from all of the poisons that they have been feeding us, from the chemtrails to fluoride in the water, to tainted vaccines, to fake food, etc., etc. They have enslaved us all by the clever means of deception, because we, most all, are their cattle, chattel, property, and because they merely wanted to harness our labour, what they always needed, which is what backs most of the world's currency through the birth certificate, but they are all through with us now. It is written in stone, as it can be seen written in the Georgia Guidestones. To know the truth is to be empowered and to be prepared. We may not be able to stop what has been done and what is about to happen, but the innocent and decent people on planet Earth deserve to know. And that was written by Desert-Owl. And I'd like to welcome any new listeners and also Desert-Owl to the program. Just let me turn on your microphone, Desert. I won't be a second. Okay, should be good to go. How's it going, Desert?
Hey, Ninja. Doing all right, thank you. I get mesmerized by that graphic of the spinning galaxy that's in the staircase. Yeah, it's a good one. Most of the gifts aren't very good because they kind of distract. But this
Yeah.
is the way
A
it's
lot of
blended.
them are
It's just
glitchy. Yeah.
yeah, very, very nice. And
Thank you.
yes, thank you. So I got some reading I want to do today, and some Aishavor, some words. Is there anything you want to talk about first before we got started?
No, not really. I haven't really had a chance to prepare as per usual. Desert. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So I'm still not ready to share what I've been going through
Yeah.
this
Okay.
last week.
Okay.
So maybe on Monday we'll do a little bit of a segment
All right.
on that. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
is that
very
okay with
good.
you?
So we'll absolutely. So we'll get
Okay.
into some words, and words are not what you think, and words are not supposed to control you, but they put everybody under the spell, and spell has everything to do with words, spelling, and that's the spell they put us under because there is no supernatural power. It's strictly a magician's trick, and they since they control the stage and are on the dominant side, control all publishing, control religion, all of that, then they have the upper hand. So we have to get back in control of the original thought and of the terminology and the parent root forms. So we've got it's like going back to school. But the good news is that this is far easier than Greek or Hebrew. Okay, and or the false Sanskrit, because the true Sanskrit is in the capital letters, the A, B, C capital letters, also known as the Phoenician alphabet. So that's the what was breathed into Hadam. What was breathed into Hadam is the gnosis, and the gnosis is the so in other words, he became a conscious being already, like a software download. Boom, he was already able to communicate and good to go, and he then is with Yeshua in the throne of the sun in the atom, falsely called Eden. It's because it's the garden of the atoms, and he is then um, enlightened further into the great mysteries of creation, and so that's what he had. He had an advantage over all other earthly creations, a Shan. And there's a good picture of the alphabet. Ninja, is that from the dictionary? Did I do that?
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Okay, I don't even remember doing that
It's it,
segment there.
it's your
Yeah.
work, does it? Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it's been such a long time since I've been able to do word processing, and yeah, I put a lot of effort into that, and a lot of comparison went into comparing the letters, and it's very illustrative, as you can see. You
Yeah.
can see the elements. The elements are in there of primitive versus the Hebrew, and then versus our modern, and the modern is what goes back to the primitive, actually. And so yeah, this we've gone through a lot of evolution in our history, and so this is fantastic. Thank you for that. And did you? I don't know if. I don't know if you can send a copy of that to Shelley, because that'd be good to put up on the other when we talk about alphabets and stuff. That'd be a good one
Yeah,
for her. That's a good capture.
I
Thank
can.
you. So,
Yeah. No
mhm,
worries.
right,
Yep.
I'm not worried.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. You don't you all have anything else to say? Beyond "don't worry." I mean, like, good to go. How about that one? Good to go.
No, that's
All
not
right.
Aussie. No.
That's not all. All right.
All
All
good
right.
is Aussie.
All right.
Yeah.
All good. All right. Good. Mm.
I'm
All right.
sorry.
Continuing
Yeah,
here.
please continue. Please,
All
yep.
right. So, couple words.
Yep.
Couple words here. So, reality. Reality, and I'm looking at some old cards. I hadn't seen these in a while. I'm digging them out of my storage box for processing. I didn't put them in the alphabetical listing yet, and so I'm just pulling them out. So, reality is an independent spiritual world. You see, that's the reality. It's independent of the lower world, but yet it interacts with the lower world. It's fully active down here, but yet it is independent.
Wow, that makes
Uh,
sense. I can. Yeah. Sorry. It
mm,
just hit me. Yeah. Please
Yeah,
continue.
no, because
Yeah.
it's superior.
Yeah.
No, and so that's just, it was just like it'd be like a father and his little ones.
Yeah.
He's independent from his little ones, but yet he's fully interactive with them because
Yeah.
he doesn't need them, they need him.
Yeah.
And so so that's what we have. And then the word lost, it means a true star. And
Oh.
because if you look at the word, you see abbreviated terms again. Let me type it in the sidebar here. LOST is the true star. Okay, so the true star. So the low means true, and then ST we can see is an abbreviation. Excuse me, of star. STAR. Okay. Uh, I meant to use that other symbol. So okay, so there you go, and that's how we they've compressed the word. So the
Okay.
aspect of the true star, in other words, it's like an incomplete thought. In far as the lexicon goes, because it is the true. It means literally the true star. But what does it mean when you say I'm lost? It's like the other part is implied without being stated in the lexicography, and it means he can't find his true star. He's lost. He can't if you're a star navigator, right? You're following the stars,
Yeah.
but if you can't find your true north, then and that's your true star, so you're lost. So that's um in essence what that implies. Okay, so
Okay.
you can't find your
Wow.
true star when you're lost. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the original thought. Okay,
That's
okay, and
beautiful.
so right. Well,
Yeah.
that's original again. Remember, everything goes back to the light, goes back to a star, right, and all of that.
Yeah.
So okay, and then the word rune,
Oh,
RUNE.
this would be interesting. Yeah.
Well, it just simply means mystery or secret, and that would
Okay.
be we can see in there the word ruins, right? The
Yeah.
ruins. You go to a ruin, and it's like, okay, what happened? The first question is what happened to the civilization? What happened to this building? Whatever it is, you see the destruction everywhere, but you don't see anybody to talk to, and so it creates the mystery and the secret, and it's buried, something buried. So the runes are implying that there's a mystery buried behind the symbol as well within that, within that.
Yeah. I thought
Uh,
that's what I was thinking of when I commented when I said that'll be interesting.
yeah,
I had ruin in my head. I did.
right.
Yeah.
And so Simon, which is became Kefe. Yeshua gave him the title Kefe for the key, the fiery keys of the woman, but then his title is corrupted into Peter. But it's interesting because Simon, which would be more correctly in the Aramaic Shemon,
Okay.
is in the Ethiopian means north, and but yet north actually doesn't mean like on the north part of the globe. It means back to the sun, and so literally that's interesting. In that sense, then because it's implying Shemun, and so we see the word moon
Yes.
in Shemun, but yet it is the well, the Aishamun. Actually, his title may have been Aishamun. That I'm seeing this for the first time
Wow.
because yeah, and so the royal eye of the moon. So there's more that can be made into it, but north. When they talk about north, they actually mean above, and that means that
Yeah.
it always points back to the sun. But I guess at night, if you're in the occultic, it also could point back to the moon. So there's more to do there, but that's a clue onto a deeper meaning within his title. He was the guy that was to lead the first body of the called out ones, the church. He was the great orator after they all received the great breath of the wind and fire, the Holy Spirit, on the 50th day on the Pentecost, and so he was the one speaking as the ambassador here on earth for the light, for the sun, the throne of the sun, and so glorified is magnified. Okay, glorified is magnified, and That's one more aspect of it. In other words, there's all of these things going on in the word glorified. In other words, glory is one of the biggest code words next to heaven. But literally,
Yeah.
in the sense of the glory, there's easily, if I were to pull all my cards out and put them in a line, there would be like 25 possible meanings behind the word glorified. It's one of the ultimate cyber codes because we see in the word glory, they hate the light. Well, you can see in the prime surface, it's glow ray is the glowing rays, glory, glow ray.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And
Wow.
then the lorry, as we know from British, a lorry is a truck, and so it's
Yeah.
moving. So the light is
Yeah.
moving, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and it's female because it's a lorry, and we call women lorry, and so so glory, so the glory is the glowing rays, and it's the movement of light. So all of those things are within, they're on the surface, but yet the word is used in other abstract ways as a code. They don't use one word for a literal sense only, but they use a word um, in multiple different covers. Just like the word heaven can imply the sky, the cosmos, or the sun. Well, certainly the sun is not the cosmos.
Yeah.
Certainly the sun is not the sky, but yet, so that's how they did it. Like they did that. I found the same trick in the Nag Hammadi library. That's what they did. They used one word like pleroma, and they use these Greek terms, which are, foreign,
What's
foreign to.
yeah, sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt. You're probably
Right.
about to explain it anyway. What's pleroma? What's pleroma?
Pleroma,
Oh,
PL.
pleroma.
Plural.
Okay.
Well, that
Okay.
means that means fullness. That means fullness.
Okay.
But yet they use the word in for other Greek words or Coptic. I guess it was Coptic words out of the Nag Hammadi. So you could never follow a pattern because there is no pattern when they use one word for multiple other words. Just like they did in our scriptures. Whereas Young, who gave us the Young's Analytical Concordance and the Literal Bible in the 1800s, he says that they're using one word. Um, they're using up to 40 English words to do business for one Hebrew word. How could that possibly be correct, right?
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
Hebrew word, 40 English words. That's at the extreme.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the
That's
extreme. But on
that's
average,
mind-boggling. That's what that
yeah, on,
is.
yeah, on average, we could say 10 on average. But the
Okay.
extreme, one Hebrew word being used 40 different English words, and that's an impossibility. And that shows the problem of the scam that's really
Yeah.
happened to us, because that's really what it is. It's a scam,
Yeah.
that's been on our scriptures.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then one more. We've got bullpit and pulpit. Is what I'll call it the top pulpit, but it's just a code word for the bullpit where they're filling us with their bull. That's why they call it a pulpit, right? And or we maybe can call it the pit bull. So anyway, that's where that's at. And Ninja, I got one thing I got to do. Can we go to a short break? Do you have a short break we can do,
Whoops.
and then we'll
Hang on. I just turned
come?
music on. That was perfect timing.
Okay,
Hang on. I'll just turn it down. Sorry. Bit of a
sorry.
technical glitch. I can't find
Give me
it.
2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes, right? Be right back.
Okay. We'll just go to a quick break. Okay. Okay, welcome back to the Forbidden History Chronicles. You're here listening with NinjaCat 111 and Dezert-Owl from the Forbidden History series YouTube channel, and currently broadcasting from Forbidden History Live. If you have not yet done so, please subscribe. Go back to June 21st last year, 2018, on Forbidden History Live. If you're new at hearing this, nobody else is talking about it, and if you go back to the start at June 21st last year, it will help you get the picture. It would help you understand what is really going on. We've been lied to, and they've switched our words, and it started right from the beginning. And welcome back, Desert. I'm just
Thank
sorry,
you.
I'm just scrolling, going down my very, very long list. So welcome back. Please continue.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do a read out of the Dictionary of All Scriptures and Myths. And the page I had tagged here today is Fetters on Man. And we have to look at the symbolism behind what is another classic statement would be like being bound in chains, and so fetters on a man is an emblem of attachment of the mind to the lower affections and desires, causing sorrows, troubles, and tribulations, and binding the soul to matter. Let therefore no man love anything. Loss of the beloved is evil, and loss of the beloved is evil. I'm not sure how to interpret that last statement there. Those who love nothing and hate nothing have no fetters. Okay, so I think what it means when it says loss of the beloved, I mean is to grieve.
Okay.
To grieve over the loss of a loved one when you know the truth about nature. Even Yeshua said it in the misnomer Aquarian Gospel, which is the original Gospel. When somebody was grieving, he says, "Why are you grieving? They are no longer there, and they live on." And so,
Yeah.
but anyway, so those who love nothing and hate nothing have no fetters. And of course, in the sense of love nothing, it doesn't actually mean not to love. It's implying the selfish kind of love where and then people get upset because you didn't do something a certain way.
Yeah.
This selfish like I like the term that came to us through Star Trek, the Klingon love. That's what they were referring to us as patriots. The Klingons. We're clinging on, right? When we're, and so this is the Starship Enterprise. Business is good for them, and we're clinging on while they're destroying our world, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's
sense.
the metaphor in that. Yeah. So the living self, not being a lord, is bound because he has to enjoy the fruits of works. But when he has known the great Dole of Haim, or as it says here, God, he is freed from all fetters. And then one more definition here: fetters on the self or soul, a symbol of the captivity of the self in the matter of the lower planes due to the process of involution. The object of the Sankhya Karika is to effect the liberation of the soul, Purusha, from the fetters in which it is involved by union with the Parikti, that's matter. And Purusha, there's the word Aisha right there. This Puru Aisha would be probably the most correct original form. And when all desires that dwell in the heart cease, then the mortal becomes immortal and obtains Brahman. And Brahman is the word for sovereign. See, it was an amazing revelation to see that, but it came through the word Abraham. That's how I was able to see the original word for Brahman,
Wow.
sovereign. You know, so
Wow. They have
when
a
you're in
similar
full,
sound. Sorry, they have a
yeah,
similar sound.
absolutely,
Yeah.
that's the point. Yeah. Now we know the bees of corruption,
Yeah.
and so when all desires that dwell in the heart cease, in other words, gotta have this, gotta have that, gotta have this, gotta have that, then the mortal becomes immortal and obtains sovereign. Sovereign. And when all the fetters of the heart here on earth are broken, when all the that binds us to this life is undone, then the mortal becomes immortal. Here our seed planting ends. Here our teaching ends. And this is from what is called Vedanta, and it was written by Max Muller from the 1800s on Indian philosophy. And comparative philosophy is relevant, ladies and gentlemen, because there's a universal thought, and the all the the religious cultures were attempting, in their own right, to embrace the truth, even though most all the priesthoods were corrupt,
Yeah.
and the controlling faction, the unseen hand, working for the unseen hand, our self in the one world order. Our self is neither our body nor our mind, nor even our thoughts, of which most philosophers are so proud, but that all these are the conditions only to which the self has to submit, fetters by which it is chained. Again, another Max Muller quote from Vedanta philosophy. Whatever separates us from God, or correctly, the great Elohim, Yahweh, is but the deceptive semblance of self, which chains our volition. Hence, man must realize himself from the fetters of, not realize, but release himself from the fetters of self and creative love, must have nothing and desire nothing excepting the great Elohim, who is Yahweh, and experience Yahweh, who is the great Elohim, in the solitude of his spirit. And that's Eckhart. And that's from Fielderer, Development of Christianity. When a soul succeeds in breaking the fetters of blindness, which is sin, and ascending the throne of spiritual power, it invariably does so by the emergence of something divine, which within something which must have been there from the first, and which lies deeper than all the corruptions of the fleshly nature. R.J. Campbell sermons, The Faith That Saves. The chain, which is made up of guilt and filth, is heavy. It is a wretched bond about thy neck, by which your strength doth fail. But come though thou, but come though you come in chains. Okay, that's the beautiful part. Like we have a lot of guilt we
Yeah.
take upon us, and for our lives. But even as it says, come with chains, or as another scripture in one of the lost writings says, if you can't do 100%, then do 90%. If you can't
Yeah.
do 90%, do 80%. Better to do as much as you can when you still feel the guilt of slavery, the guilt of being bound by something, that injures your conscience, and you wish to be set free from it. That's what is the struggle. You see, to be set free from the self, from the serpent, from the external forces, the addictions, all those things of this world. Or as it says, when you go, it said, if your feet offend you, but what it meant is the places you go to, does it give you a guilty conscience? Then stop going there. The things that it says, if your hand offends you, cut it off. Well, it meant that the things that you do they offend you? Well, if they do, then stop doing them. That's what it means, cut off. Cut off, stop.
Yeah.
And so people have taken those scriptures literally and cut off their
Yeah.
hands.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
literally have, and it's absolutely astounding
Yeah.
how people become so shallow in their ability to read higher thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so the chain, which is made up of guilt and filth, is heavy. It is a wretched bond about your neck, by which your strength does fail. But come, though you come in chains, it is illumination before the Moeshiach, the Christ, that is, that a blind one, a sinner, comes after him in chains. Of course he does. The chinklings of your chains, though troublesome to you, are not, nor can be, obstruction for your soul novation. It is the Moeshiach's work and the illumination to save you from your chains, to enlarge your steps, and to set you at liberty. That's John Bunyan. Come and welcome to the Christ, and he wrote the book, The Pilgrim's Progress. So that's wisdom from from the 1500s, 1600s, that area. And John Bunyan, he went to prison for like 15 years, something like that, because he was speaking about the scriptures, and so he paid the ultimate price. They just told him you could be set free if you're shut up, and he says, I can't be shut up. I can't. I won't shut up.
Wow.
And so he volunteered to be in prison while he had a daughter who was blind.
Oh.
And so it's a very tragic story of John Bunyan. He was he was a good scholar. He was a wise man, and therefore he had a conscience. He was a man of conscience, and therefore couldn't be bought or sold. And okay, so that's that one. And so we have a lot of definitions to cover, and we do that usually every day unless we got something special going on. And then I'm now in the Forbidden History of America, and want to welcome any new listeners that are out there today as well. We're attempting to make sense out of a very bad world, and a lot of suffering out there, a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of
Yeah.
a lot of hurting going on, and so but the beauty behind Yeshua's teaching is when something offends you. His prime axiom is to turn the other cheek, because we don't know sometimes when somebody misspoke that we didn't hear it improperly, or that they they didn't realize what they were saying, or that and turning the other cheek is in other words, like from my instance, when somebody says something that's not right, and I just don't say anything, or I let it go past, because I realize that well, the other party may have not been realizing what they're saying, or like an insult would be a good example. An insult that somebody generates at you, and it shows their limited capacity for
responding to it just creates more bad energy.
Right, exactly, and they're not showing a discipline,
Yeah.
and therefore they fell into a pattern where that's the thing, we have to break our patterns of being stupid and saying things improperly.
Exactly.
Where people actually think that it's okay to use profanity within their spiritual Christian walk, and yet the scripture says clearly that a tree doesn't bring forth corrupt fruit, and a perfect tree does not bring forth corrupt fruit, and a corrupt tree does not bring forth perfect fruit. It can't. You see, and both of them are on the opposite end, and the perfect tree will continually bring forth perfect fruit. And this is our perfect illustrations, but yet we know that it is possible for any of us to slip up at any given time if we're not following a discipline, if we're not following our reading, if we're not staying a pattern. That's where we have to get a pattern and an algorithm. And that's why you struggle a lot, Ninja, because you can't even get an algorithm. You can't, and that's a killer. That's a killer. And so having patterns and ways of doing things is a way to ascend this world. And so, but the beauty is, in the meantime, you can follow a pattern of forgiveness, a pattern of turning the other cheek, and a pattern of consistently creating light before Yeshua, because
Sorry, I don't mean
whatever
to
you can do.
That's what I'm really starting to do now. Like it takes so long to change things when you're stuck in this pre-programmed reality. And you've been stuck in the same repeating cycle like for a lifetime. I feel lighter today, Desert, and I can feel the repeating pattern of this life finally starting to change. I'm starting to break the cycle, and I'm really starting to focus. And yeah, so thank you. I just wanted to say that. Please continue.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we're in the forbidden history of America, and it's important to know the fraudulent nature and deception of man's government. And I've been wanting to read this for a couple decades, actually since last century, and so we're just doing a chapter at a time, and it helps us to relate to what is happening in man's institutions. Man is is the fraud, and man is the one who's playing the game. They got us to think of devils and demons and Satan and all these terms that were
Yeah.
created. These are the terms that were created by man, and these are the illusions created by man, because man is at the core of everything. Oh, we should have included aliens, of course,
Yeah.
but it is man who has instituted all the deception on our planet. It's man who has engineered the words.
Yeah.
And so we're in chapter 15 under the term consent. And this is by the informer, who's now passed away, and he did the new history of America, what I call the forbidden history of America. And so when it comes to consent, I must include the words of Lysander Spooner on his appendix titled "Taxation" to the essays on trial by jury. And let me just take a sip here, and I'll read it. All right. I just saw just a little footnote here, Ninja. I saw I go to the Weather Channel, and they showed a lady off the coast of Massachusetts, a young teenager, was fishing with her dad in a boat out in the Atlantic, and she caught on hooked a fish, and it took her 12 hours to reel it in. It pulled the boat 8 miles, and it turned out to be a 700-pound tuna. 700
Wow.
pound tuna, and so she's going to sell it for college tuition. It is going to sell for over
Really?
$8,000. Yeah, 8,000
That's
bucks for that tuna.
amazing.
Yeah, yeah. To see the picture is a mind blower. I don't know how she did it. Her dad took over. He spelled her but she reeled it in. And
So how
but
big was the fish compared to the boat? Like next.
it was like about a quarter size of the boat. It looked like, or I mean, it filled it up pretty big. We're talking 6 foot long tuna. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah. So that a little sidebar there, and yeah,
Thanks for that.
I don't know how she could have done it, but I think she knew she was going for big fish because she had a big fishing pole. So it looked
Yeah.
like a pole that would be for catching a marlin or a
Yeah.
sailfish or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the story here. So consent, Lysander Spooner, he said it was the principle of common law, as it is the law of nature and of common sense, that no man can be taxed without his personal consent. The common law knew nothing of that system, which now prevails in England, of assuming a man's own consent to be taxed, because some pretended representative whom he never authorized to act for him has taken it upon himself to consent that he may be taxed. This is one of the many frauds of the common law and the English Constitution, which have been introduced since Magna Carta. Having finally established itself in England, it has been stupidly and severely copied and submitted into the United States. If the trial by jury was reestablished, the common law principle of taxation would be reestablished with it. For it is not to be supposed that juries would enforce a tax upon an individual which he had never agreed to pay. Taxation without consent is plain robbery when enforced against one man, as when enforced against millions. And it is not to be imagined that juries could be blind to so self-evident a principle. Sorry, Lysander. People are truly stupid today and have no idea what natural common law is about, and consistently rule for the state, capital S, when the judge tells them so. Taking a man's money without his consent is also as much robbery when it is done by millions of men acting in concert and calling themselves government, as when it is done by a single individual acting on his own responsibility and calling himself a highwayman. Neither the numbers engaged in the act nor the different characters they assume as a cover for the act alter the nature of the act itself. If the government can take a man's money without his consent, there is no limit to the additional tyranny it may practice against him. For with his money, it can hire soldiers to stand over him, keep him in subjection, plunder him at discretion, and kill him if he resists. And governments will always do this. Evident Call, um, I can't remember Call's first name, but they shot him. Gordon Call, and I think they killed his son first. His son put on his father's clothing, um, and then they shot his son by mistake, and I don't remember the rest of the story. Scott, Weaver, Randy Weaver, Waco, of course, and then to name just a few. There's your example of government at its best, as they elsewhere and always, everywhere and always have done it, except where the common law principle has been established. It is of political freedom that a man can be taxed only by his personal consent, and the establishment of this principle with trial by jury ensures freedom of course, because one, no man would pay his money unless he had first contracted for such a government as he was willing to support. Your contract, plain and simple, is that you declare yourself a citizen of the state. And two, unless the government then kept itself within the terms of its contract, juries would not enforce the payment of the tax. Besides, the agreement to be taxed would probably be entered into, but for a year at a time. If in that year the government proved itself insufficient or tyrannical to any serious degree, the contract would not be renewed. The dissatisfied parties, if sufficiently numerous for a new organization, would form themselves into a separate association for mutual protection. If not sufficiently numerous for that purpose, those who were conscientious would forego all government protection rather than contribute to the support of government which they deemed unjust. List all the protection your government gives you when the supposed Supreme Court of the U.S. declares that police are not formed to protect lives, only property. It has protected you from robbery. Or the question is, has it protected you from robbery, rape, carjacking, etc., etc.? It still goes down. It still goes on, doesn't it? All legitimate government is a mutual insurance company, voluntarily agreed upon by the parties to it for the protection of their rights against wrongdoers. In its voluntary character, it is precisely similar to an association for mutual protection against fire and shipwreck. The political insurance company or government have no more right in nature or reason to assume a man's consent to be protected by them and to be taxed for that protection when he has given no actual consent than a fire or marine insurance company have to assume a man's consent to be protected by them and to pay them the premium when his actual consent has never been given. To take a man's property without his consent is robbery, and to assume his consent where no actual consent is given makes the taking nonetheless a robbery. If it did, the highwayman has the same right to assume a man's consent to part with his purse that any other man or body of men can have. And his assumption would afford as much moral justification for his robbery as does a like assumption on the part of the government for taking a man's property without his consent. The government's pretense of protecting him as an equivalent for this taxation decide whether he desires such protection as the government offers him. If he does not declare it or does not bargain for it, the government has no more right than any other insurance company to impose it upon him or make him pay for it. Definition of impose, as found in Title 26, the tax is hereby imposed, means the dictate, force upon, inflict. Doesn't sound like voluntary to me, does it? Mm-mm. And so trial by by the country and no taxation without consent were the two pillars of English liberty when England had any liberty, and the first principles of the common law. They mutually sustain each other, and neither can stand without the other. Without both, no people have any guarantee for their freedom. With both, no people can otherwise be free. And in Lysander's footnote, it proves that the alphabetic agencies of both the states and the United States and the jackbooted stormtroopers called erroneously police. Well, they're correct. Call that correctly. It's the police. The police. You get the chilling effect when you are confronted by them. That's the police. It's pretty cold when they throw you in those freezing waters, and have total control over all people. The courts. That's covert. On the courthouses from the 1800s, it's spelled COVRTS, and there you can see the word covert and court.
Yeah.
And as you well know, the courts, as you well know, are not for the justice of man. They are for the justice of those in control. For everything we do is against the system of the profligates that continue to run the system. Here is the footnote. Trial by the country and no taxation without consent mutually sustain each other and can be sustained only by each other for these reasons. One, juries would refuse to enforce a tax against a man who had never agreed to pay it. They would also protect a man enforceably resisting the collection of taxes to which they had never consented. Otherwise, the jurors would authorize the government to tax themselves without their consent, a thing which no jury would likely do. This does not apply in today's world because the sheeple are on the juries and obey whatever the judge tells them to do. And usually the jury's stacked with the foreman, who's also a Freemason. So it's all stacked against the other jurors who want to use their proper thinking, but they can't because they're pressured. Every juror today believes that if you get away without paying taxes, the government would disintegrate and they would not be able to wallow in the hog through and receive all the benefits to which they are entitled. Moreover, they will allow people like me and you on a jury, and if they do, we can be held in contempt of the court when going against what the judge says, because we are only an advisory jury for the maritime courts. Never forget that people, and that is why you will never get a fully informed jury ever under their system. Don't kid yourself. Fully informed jury people. Now, back to the quote. In these two ways, when trial by the country would sustain the principle of no taxation without consent. Two, on the other hand, the principle of a taxation without consent would sustain the trial by the country, because the men in general would not consent to be taxed for the support of a government which under trial by a country was not secured. Thus, these two principles mutually sustain each other. Ninja, just give out some information real quick. I got to turn off that AC. I'm starting to freeze over here.
Okay.
Have crazy weather. Hang on, Barry.
Crazy weather. Okay. If you'd like to donate, feel free. Any size donation would be very handy. We're doing this just because we love to. Yeah, completely voluntarily. We don't have any sponsors or anything like that. So if you do choose to donate...
Wait a minute. You're my sponsor. Aren't you my sponsor?
Yes, Desert.
Okay. I got a sponsor. Thank you.
Would you like me to continue with the
Please continue.
Sorry. Okay. Yes. If you do choose to donate, you will get. We will send you some PDFs. They're very handy to have, and we'll help you get the picture as to what Desert is sharing here. You won't hear it anywhere else. Okay, sorry, I'm just looking for the graphics. Okay, You will get a copy of the Real Da Vinci Code Etymological Dictionary, written by Dezert-Owl, and you will also get a copy of the Book of Wisdom, which is fantastic. I say that I'm going to say this every live stream now. It's my go-to book uh, when I'm struggling, and there's nobody that I can turn to and share with.
Yeah.
I go to the Book of Wisdom, and just
Hmm.
open it randomly, and it's amazing. Yeah, the answer's always there, or something that I need to just just words that I need to see.
Hmm.
Yeah,
In other words, it's the greatest book of wisdom ever written. Bottom
yes, it
line, right?
is.
Into 22 chapters. Yeah,
Yes, it is. It's
yeah. And
amazing.
and 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 I see. Zealot said that he's sent you something through the mail, and certainly get him all these PDFs on all these
Yeah, yeah,
documents.
yeah. I will.
Yeah, thank him.
I will.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
thank you,
definitely.
Zealot.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. Also, if you can't afford to donate and you want the PDFs, we'll send them to you anyway. That's fine. That's okay. All the details are in the description on every live stream. Um, yeah. So just let us know and we'll get them to you. Also, you will get a copy of the original gospel, a sample copy with a more up to date version of Desert's Dictionary at the back of it. So, yeah, see and read it for yourself. Yeah.
Mhm.
We also welcome questions. If you have questions, uh, you can put them in the chat. Just make sure you type in desert in capital letters so that either Desert or I can spot the question easier. And also, you're welcome to call in. Um, yeah, uh, I'm not sure about Skype yet, so but you can call Desert's phone. I apologise, Desert. Potential nose fry. You can call in on, I haven't said the number in a while, so you can call in on 608 566 7295. That's 608 566 7295. If you're international, just add a +1 at the start. We can try Skype if anyone's game enough to call. I'm sure we can figure it out, or we'll do a practice.
Mhm.
Yeah. Anyway, welcome back, Desert.
Thank you.
No
Okay,
worries.
and very good. Thank you for that. And yeah, we're toughing it out on planet Earth, and we're reading about the forbidden history of America by the Informer. He calls it the new history. I would have thought it was the old history, but I call it the forbidden history. And it sounds like looking at the notes of Zealot, he's been through some legal battles himself.
Yeah.
So we're all just survivors over here, recovering from the abuse of man's government. Okay, so but continuing now on dealing with the issue of consent in chapter 15. But if either of these principles were broken down, the other would fail with it. The principles we were just reading about, of course, the other would fail with it. And for these reasons, here is right. And uh, here is, here he is right in where we are today. One, if trial by the country, and by the way, trial by the country means, you see, the superior court, what we call the Supreme Court, is actually what is an inferior court because it's in a commercial jurisdiction, and it had more to do with international trade and commerce. But they call it the Superior Court, so we think it's the great heaven, the God zone or something. But the Superior Court, meaning the true sovereign court, was the court of the county, in your county where you were. If you were going to be tried for any nefarious activity or a crime, it would be by your peers because nobody has a right to take you anywhere into a foreign jurisdiction unless it be proved that you have forfeited your natural rights by injuring another. And so trial by the country is a trial by jury, and it's in the superior court. And the superior court is in the county. That was the superior court. You see how they flipped it? Everything is reversed. Now we have to want to go up to the Supreme Court for some legislated phony code, rule, or regulation that never had anything to do with us in the beginning. You see the shell game,
Yeah.
because it's people who are to protect the people, but now they got codes, rules, and attorneys to protect the people. Well, they're not protecting the people; they're protecting the fiction. And protecting their money racket. It's just it's an amazing show, and most people can never figure the racket out. It is so deep. Okay, and with that sunscreen, I saw the Higher Truth channel today, and apparently by these charts, we're going to try to pull them up tomorrow at the beginning of the program. But the UVC and the UVB is far more extreme than and when you see the charts, you'll get it. And basically 15 minutes or 30 minutes out in the sun, and you're damaging your DNA in your skin underlayer.
Children
So
were going to hospital with burns all over their shoulders last summer here in Australia. Children were getting taken to hospital, and the sunscreen here, they've upgraded it, and they were advertising the best sunscreen to get was sunscreen with the new scientifically tested nanotechnology in it.
Yeah.
They actually said nanotechnology.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So we should be afraid then, I think, right? Probably.
Yeah. Oh, just I don't know. Read your sunscreen before you buy it. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, the best safety is not to go out and wear long sleeve vinyl is the best protection. So here we go. So one, if the trial by country were broken down, the principle of no taxation without consent would fall with it, because the government would then be able to tax the people without their consent, inasmuch as the legal tribunals would be more tools of the government and would enforce such taxation and punish men for resisting such taxation as the government ordered. Two, on the other hand, if the principle of no taxation without consent were broken down, trial by the country would fall with it, because the government, if it could tax the people without their consent, would of course take enough of their money to enable it to employ all the force necessary for sustaining its own tribunals in the place of juries and carry their decrees into execution. Of course, there is no money. That's the great mystery. We have volunteers. Everybody's volunteered to get in the labor pool, and they work for the beast system. And if we just stopped working for the beast system, it would all collapse. Yeah. But that would never happen, because everybody's under a beautiful state of mind control that they perfected over thousands of years. People, have you had enough force applied yet to make you sit up? Apparently not. As I said before, these courts of common law, correctly called courts of common pleas, that people are attempting to set up are a natural law right, and not one of right set up by the awful, horrendous piece of garbage ever to come down the pike called the constitutions of the states of the United States. This is the other insurance that of right can be set up by Lysander Spooner was talking about. Those of you that want to live under oppression as we see it, fine, we have and will not dictate what you want, but you better damn well not dictate to the people that want no part of your garbage and you live under. If you do, then the socialist state will eventually lead to communism. It is communism already. It's communism because everything goes into the coffer and then is redistributed. That is communism. You already live under 7 of the 10 planks of the Communist Foundation Manifesto and love it. To show either the corruptions or total lack of knowledge of the term common law by the federal so-called judge, I quote from B&W Taxi Company and B&Y Taxi Company, versus B&Y Taxi Company, 276 U.S. 518, wherein he is telling you that the common law is a fallacy. Quote, books written about any branch of the common law treat it as a unit. Cite cases from this court, from the Circuit Court of Appeals, from the state courts, from England, indiscriminately, and criticize them as right or wrong according to the writer's notions of a single theory. if there were such a transcendental body of law outside of any particular state, but obligatory within it, unless and until changed by statute, the court of the United States might be right in using their independent judgment as to what it was. But there is no such body of law. The fallacy and illusion that think exists consists in supporting that there is this outside thing to be found. Law is a word used with different meanings, but law in the sense in which courts speak of it today does not exist without some definite authority behind it. Unquote, emphasis mine. And that's why the first thing you could do, like when the judge wants to hold you in contempt of court, the first thing you should say to him, I want to know the nature of that law. You see, because he pulled it out of thin air. You see, and they got you to buy into it right on the surface there. And so when you challenge him, he'll just move on and pretend he didn't say. He'll hold you in contempt of court because you just called his hand. There is no law of contempt of court. You have a right to state your mind within a hearing or a tribunal that is going to be committing an injury against you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
As long as you do it honorably and with tact and
With
without
dignity,
getting
with dignity and respect.
in a dignified way. That's
Yeah.
correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So continuing. Oh, so as the Lord does have definite authority for his common natural law written into the Bibles, this is evident by the Congress declaring by public law 97-280 96 Stat 1211 that the formative influence of the Bible has been for our nation and our national need to study and apply the teachings of the Holy Scriptures. So don't let the vermin tell you that there is no longer a common law. Hit them back by saying that it is true that the English common law has been done away with, but the Lord's common law still exists. Sorry, but the English common law is the law of this land because the Supreme Court uses it exclusively. They have to under the King's dictate under the treaties. Read the American Bar Journal number 6, June 1938, Unbound Volume 24, an article titled What Happened to Federal Jurisdiction by Albert J. Schwepp. The English common law that is used was bastardized by the king after the year 1066. That's when the Norman Franks took over England, the French, the stinking French, and became, no offense to the French though, and became patriarchal public policy law when William the Conqueror took control. That is what we have today. The common law you want is God's natural law, natural common law. He's got first letter caps. It should actually be in all small letters. All small letters is the evidence of the common law nature. Under the English common law, after being conquered by William the Conqueror, the English people no longer owned their land or by allodial title. They lost the use of the forests because William took them as preserves. Sounds just like today in America, wouldn't you say? And this is the common law you common law people want. The Magna Carta, that's the Great Charter, was not the beginning of the common law. It existed all the way back in Genesis and well before Moses came into being. And really the term common law would be better to say the natural law. The natural law, we know right and wrong, and it's a law of nature not to harm another. What did Spooner say in the beginning of the chapter about common law? Sorry, but you are dealing with the vermin that are totally impotent, except when it comes to their written law of public policy. That's what they're under. The bankruptcy's under public policy that assures their livelihood at your expense, slave. This is a statement by a Supreme Court judge in his dissenting opinion to show the incompetence even of patriot attorneys that do not know they are in admiralty proceedings in revenue cases. That includes driver's license cases and any other property taxes, a revenue collecting endeavor. And in other words, they're in commerce. They're not in law. Law is the shell racket. They got you to think it's one way when it's another way. What a game. To the extent that admiralty procedure differs from civil procedure, it is a mystery to most trial and appellate judges, and the non-specialist lawyer who finds himself sometimes, to his surprise, involved in cases cognizable only on the Admiralty side of the court. Admiralty practice, said Mr. That's the emerging sea, ladies and gentlemen, the emerging sea, that put us the flood. The flood came upon the land. The Admiralty rules. And what is the rule of the Admiralty? You do what the captain says when the captain says do it, or you'll be keel hauled and thrown overboard. Okay, and wasted. That's the law. Admiralty practice, said Mr. Jackson, is a unique system of substantive laws and procedures which are members of this court are singularly deficient in experience. And by the way, we should include contract, because when you got on the ship, you agreed to the rules, and that's why they call it a ship of state. Unification Act of 1964, 34 Federal Rules, FRD 325, quoting Black Diamond SS Corp versus Stewart and Sons, 336 U.S. 386 403 69, and yada yada yada. Okay, and so that's the end of that chapter. And next we read will be on chapter 16, merge with the modern time. Oh, that's what I want to do. Merge with the modern time. I think I like to go back in time and find a cave somewhere and just meditate.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
With a loincloth. And
yeah.
That's so anyway, it's our modern matrix that they created, ladies and gentlemen. It's not yours, but they've convinced you that it is, and so we're in trouble. But the good news is we can be set free from all that, and we can know where to direct all of our energy and all of our time, not on the illusion that they want us to give credence to. Okay, so Ninja, let's go to some music. When we come back, we'll do symbols. Okay, we'll go into the Book of Symbols, and we'll wind it down with lamps on New Testament light, Old Testament light. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay.
Not worried. Keep telling her I'm not worried. She keeps telling me don't worry. All right.
Okay, we'll be back. We'll be back after this short break. Short break or long break? Is it?
Well, 5 minutes. Take a
Okay.
5-minute break minimum. All right. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be back. Okay, thank you for staying with us. Welcome back. You're listening to the Forbidden History Chronicles with NinjaCat 111 and Dezert-Owl from the Forbidden History Series YouTube channel, and currently broadcasting from Forbidden History Live. Links are in the description. Please subscribe and check the bells. Welcome back, Desert.
Thank you, Ninja. So we'll get into two word definitions real quick, and then we'll wind it down. So we've got from the Dictionary of Symbols by Surlot, which came out of Spain from the Philosophical Library and translated into English. We got two words. We're going to define deluge and also desert.
Oh,
We're just going through the book alphabetically, so it just happened to be there today.
Okay.
The tradition of the deluge, which of course means flood, or of several deluges, is to be found in all parts of the world, with the exceptions of Africa, since it appears to have verified its historical reality. Science appears to have, and when it says the exception of Africa, well, the Mediterranean Sea flood is right on top of Africa, so that's not really a true statement. Science appears to have verified its historical reality within the symbolic relationship between the moon and water. The deluge, according to Eled, corresponds to 3 days of the death of the moon as a catastrophe, and the deluge is never representative as final because it takes place under the sign of the lunar cycle and the regenerating properties of water. It destroys forms, in other words, but not forces, thus leaving the way open for reemergence of life. Consequently, apart from its material connotation, the deluge always stands for the final stage of a cycle, coinciding with the zodiacal sign Pisces. Torrential rains always retain some of the great symbolic content of the deluge. Every fall of rain is tantamount to purification and regeneration, which in turn implies the basic idea of punishment and completion. And then one more, desert. It has a profound and clear cut symbolism. Berthelot observes that the biblical prophets, which we correctly star navigators. That's a nice photo, Ninja. I love that one.
Yeah, haven't used it in a while.
Okay, yeah, the biblical star navigators, in order to counter the agrarian religions based on fertility rites related, according to Elade, to orgies, never ceased to describe theirs as the purest religion of the Israelites when they were in the wilderness. This confirms the specific symbolism of the desert as the most propitious place for divine revelation, for which reason it has been said that monotheism is the religion of the desert. Monotheism being, of course, the aspect of the one. This is because the desert is, so far as it is in a way a negative landscape, is the realm of abstraction, located outside the sphere of existence, susceptible only to things transcendent. Furthermore, the desert is the domain of the sun, not as the creator of energy upon the earth, but as pure celestial radiance, blinding in its manifestation. Again, if water is associated with the idea of birth and physical fertility, it is also opposed to the concept of the everlasting spirit. And indeed, moisture has always been regarded as a symbol of moral, ethical corruption. On the other hand, spirituality, let me try this again. On the other hand, the burning drought is the climatic par excellence of pure ascetic spirituality, of the consuming of the body for the salvation, that soul novation of the soul. Tradition provides further corroboration of this symbolism for the Avres, that's the Hebrews, the star rays. That's what Hebrew means, it's a code. Captivity, for the Hebrews, captivity in Meitzar, falsely called Egypt, was a life held in opprobrium. And to go out into the desert was to go out from Meitzar, to leave the world, so to speak. Finally, let us point to the emblematic relationship of the desert with the lion, which is a sun symbol, verifying that we have what we have said about the solar symbolism of the desert. Okay, and we'll read one more here.
Okay.
Destruction. The transcendent, the traditional symbols of destruction are always ambivalent. Whether we take the 13th mystery of the Tarot, the 12th sign of the zodiac Pisces, the symbolism of water or fire, or of any other sacrifice, every ending is a beginning, just as every beginning contains an end. This is, or as I've been saying, that which has a beginning has an end.
Yeah.
This is the essential idea of the symbols of mystic inversion. When Schneider has subjected such careful to such careful study, all this, then, should be borne in mind when we read such observations as the following by Rudolf Steiner, taken from La Philosophie de la Liberté: to transform being into an infinitely superior non-being, that is the aim of the creation of the world. The process of the universe is a perpetual combat, which will end only with the annihilation of all existence. The ethical life of a Shan of man then consists in taking part in the universal destruction. This determination, or excuse me, this destruction, like the alchemic process, concerns only phenomena, or what is separate in space, the disjunct or the remote, and in time, the transitory. This is why Steiner entitled a collection of his poems Destruction or Love. Okay. And one more that's interesting. So I should probably do this one. The devil.
Oh.
The yeah. They say the devil's in the details,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah. I just want to
all
say
right.
that that was beautiful the way you read that last one. Wow. Just the
Yeah.
way you pronounce
Right.
things. Yeah.
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 Chaos. Chaos is the beginning, and but the end is another aspect of chaos. It's
Yeah.
chaos at the beginning, chaos at the end. In the middle, we get the placid and the the sublime, but it begins in chaos and it ends in chaos as we see our world going down. And so the 15th mystery of the Tarot Pact, it takes the form of Baphomet of the Knights Templars, portrayed as having the head and feet of a he goat and the bosom and the arms of a woman. Like the Greek Sphinx, it incorporates the four elements. Its black leg corresponds to the earth and to the spirits of the nether world. The green scales on its flanks allude to water and undines the dissolution. Its blue wings to sylphs and also to bats, because its wings are membranous, and the red head is relative to the fire and salamander. The arm of the devil is regression or stagnation in what is fragmentary, inferior, diverse, and discontinuous. Finally, the tarot mystery card is related to the instincts and to desires in all passionate forms, the magic arts, disorder, and perversion. Okay, and so anyway, I'm surprised they were able to get the devil to pose for a photo, but apparently they did, and that was nice of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, Ninja, that's our symbolism for today, and we've covered a bit of ground here today, and we'll just save the rest for Monday when we come back, and we'll play it again. Okay, and
Okay.
nobody has any questions out there. I guess if anybody does, now's the time to call in, because we're certainly love to engage people in conversation and to try to answer questions for anybody that's still trying to figure something out. It's a big universe. There's a lot. There's a lot we have yet to figure out and to have revealed for us. Sometimes it comes by revelation. It's not
Yeah.
that you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, for Monday I'll have something prepared because I wanted to do something on the weather tonight, but I didn't have time. Yeah, and I was focusing on gathering my strength, getting my strength back. So
Sure. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Well, thank you for giving your energy to this broadcast and for sharing, because it's going to people around the world, and we never know who's listening in, you know. And I know Bondi Gandhi Rashish smoking his hashish is listening in. He's rather upset right now, he's blowing smoke, trying to figure out how to stop this production. But we're gonna say it until they pull the plug. That's all we can do,
yeah.
Ninja. So okay, so be safe down under, and we'll be on tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern time on Forbidden History Live. What they didn't want you to know that we tell right here. Ninja, be well. Thank you.
Okay, you too. Peace and light always, Desert.
Bye bye.
Okay, see ya.
See you.
Okay, and that was the Forbidden History Chronicles. Um, we'll see you again. We'll see you again on Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, US, which is midnight Monday, um, Eastern Standard Time, Aussie time. Um, and I just want to say, please check out the links in the description and subscribe to the other channels. Sorry, I'm multitasking as usual. Trying to find graphics. Where are we? Also to the new channels. We're slowly building them up. So subscribe and check the bell on both of these channels, please. The links are in the description on every one of these live streams. I'd like to thank Dezert-Owl for being here and sharing. Yeah, you heard it here first, and you won't hear this anywhere else. I'll just find the just scrolling up. Anyway, love all of you, and peace and light. Please be safe out there. Okay, see you next time.